Welcome to today's Explainer. Have you ever wondered why some people prioritize honor above literally everything else, while others seem driven purely by profit? Today, we're looking at a fascinating, highly specific philosophical framework that attempts to map out the very core drivers of human behavior. It's all about how we orient ourselves in the universe and what exactly guides our everyday actions. If you've ever been baffled by why humans operate under such wildly different moral codes, well, this structured breakdown is going to be incredibly insightful.
Without faith, one is no different from a straw dog, a mere animal. Okay, let's dive right into this, because that is an incredibly provocative claim right out of the gate from our source material today. This text proposes that faith isn't just, a Sunday activity or some abstract concept. It is the fundamental dividing line between a conscious, directed human being and a purely instinct-driven existence. It's framed here as the absolute defining feature of our humanity.
So here's our agenda for today. 1. Defining the soul's compass. 2. Theists versus atheists. 3. The earthly belief levels. 4. The spiritual ascension. And 5. Your life's final outcome. Let's get into it.
Section 1. Defining the soul's compass. What is faith?
So the crucial starting point is how this framework actually defines faith, because it's a critical foundation for everything else we're about to cover. The argument here is that faith is fundamentally a creation of the soul and a deeply individual act of consciousness. It is entirely internal. Actually, think of it this way. A political party or a religious institution is like a ship, but this faith is your internal compass. The ship might sink, it might totally change course, or disappear altogether, but your compass remains yours. It's a really strict distinction. Your faith is an innate navigational tool, whereas collective organizations are just temporary vessels. Section 2. Theists versus atheists, two true norths. And this brilliantly illustrates the primary split we have to consider before climbing our ladder. We essentially have two main player types operating in the world. On one side, we have theists. In this paradigm, theists are viewed as humble and restrained. Why? Well, because they rely on a belief in cause and effect. They operate under the assumption that a cosmic CCTV is basically always rolling, a divine presence is watching, and that makes them highly cautious and karma-conscious about their daily actions. On the flip side, we have atheists. They're characterized as bold and driven entirely by empirical evidence. Because there's no next life to worry about and no karmic retribution to fear, the stakes for right now are absolute. Their entire focus, energy, and time is poured into the measurable realities of this current life, because hey, this life is their only shot. It's a fascinating contrast in how humanity sets its baseline true north.
Section 3. The earthly belief levels, steps 1 through 5.
Now, we're starting at the very bottom of this evolutionary ladder. Level 1 is the law of the jungle. This is pure animalistic survival, where the strong prey on the weak. It's dog eat dog, the absolute lowest form of human operation. Step up to level 2, and the focus shifts to money and power. Here, immediate profit is paramount. But what's really surprising about this level is how quickly the framework assumes it'll break down. It notes that with enough temptation, betrayal at level 2 is pretty much guaranteed. But then as we climb to level 3, boom, a major paradigm shift happens. We reach integrity and honor. The compass suddenly points toward character and dignity. People here still want wealth, sure, but acquiring it ethically actually matters more than ruthless accumulation. Finally, level 4 is loyalty and filial piety. This level strictly aligns with structured ethics, particularly Confucian teachings. Filial piety is essentially a deep, structural respect for elders, ancestors, and societal roles. You can see how, step by step, humanity is evolving here from pure predatory instinct up to highly organized reciprocal social ethics. And that brings us to level 5, which is broadly defined as faith in family, people, nation, party, and religion. This is the typical everyday faith of mortals. This is the person whose entire identity is deeply rooted in protecting their nation, or maybe the devoted parent dedicating absolutely everything to raising their family. It's noble, but it is fundamentally earthly. It serves as the ultimate foundation for all political and organizational beliefs in our world. This is where the vast majority of human history lives and where society functions on a daily basis, dedicating their internal compass to the betterment and survival of their collective groups. Section 4. The spiritual ascension, looking beyond the earth. Let's move up and see how this builds, because now we are leaving earthly organizations completely behind. Level 6 steps entirely away from the physical world into harmony between heaven and humanity. This is rooted heavily in Taoism, specifically focusing on Wu Wei. Wu Wei essentially means effortless action, or going with the natural flow of the universe. It requires rigorous self-cultivation and the active reduction of earthly desires. It's a very internal, solitary retreat. But then we take a massive leap to level 7, faith in the greatest creators and Buddhas. Why is this such a leap? Because we're moving from solitary internal cultivation to grand theological structures. This encompasses major world religions like Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam. The soul's compass is no longer just seeking personal harmony, it is pointing directly toward an organized divine presence and a grand cosmic order.
But, believe it or not, the framework actually doesn't stop at the major world religions. It proposes a final, ultimate peak, guided by a singular core tenet, walking the way of the greatest creator. All right, let's unpack this impartially, because this paradigm argues for an 8th and final tier, faith in life Chenyuan. The proposition here is that this top level is built upon the combined, integrated wisdom of historical figures like Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, and Lao Tzu. But it doesn't just stop at spiritual wisdom. According to the text, it simultaneously weaves in the empirical rigor and achievements of modern science. Imagine trying to fuse the ethical teachings of the world's prophets with the objective realities of physics and biology. This convergence of all beliefs into one unified system is presented as the absolute highest level of faith, and literally the limit of human wisdom. It's an incredibly ambitious attempt to unify all competing global paradigms, both scientific and spiritual, into one final true north.
Section 5. Your life's final outcome, the ultimate destination.
This brings us full circle to the overarching metaphor of our source material today. Faith is entirely non-material. It is the compass of the soul. The central thesis we've explored is that the nature of your faith, meaning where exactly you anchor yourself on that 8-tier ladder, directly determines the trajectory and the final outcome of your life. If faith is your navigation tool, then a broken or misguided compass means you are walking totally blind through life. It is the invisible system dictating your ultimate destiny. So where does your compass point? Are you navigating by the instinctual law of the jungle, striving for earthly integrity and honor, or aiming for total spiritual ascension? Wherever you find yourself on this fascinating ladder today, it offers a pretty brilliant framework for examining the hidden systems that drive human behavior. Thank you for diving into this explainer with me. Keep examining the world around you, and I will see you in the next one.